Welcome back, Freelancers Undefeated Rescue, and we're continuing with the Gear Showcase series. We're back in the Colossus, and there's a decent amount of people hanging out in here. But we'll go out on the Bastion and show some gear off. Okay, so we are in GM1, and we are going over, for these heavy assault launchers, Black Powder. Alright, so Black Powder is an upgraded flat cannon. Barrage of shells across a wide area, regaining a charge after defeating enemies. So a lot of people in the community have kind of referred to this as a shotgun for a gear slot for the Colossus. I was using the one with heavier damage. I'm going to switch back, especially for GM1. I'm probably going to switch over, just going to show the difference between the gear damage because I'm probably going to need it too. The flat cannon has its purposes, and we'll kind of go over that in some afterthoughts towards the end of the video. So just looking at some of its like normal stats right off the bat, it does about 1,500 damage, which isn't a very huge number. It's actually pretty low. 1,500 damage, just to be clear. And then it has the armor break symbol on it, so it does more damage against armor. And it has a recharge of 4, which is ironic because if you kill an enemy with it, you get a recharge. So it has a low recharge, and then defeating an enemy automatically recharges the gear. So typically the way you'd want to go with this is you want to put a lot of or you'd want one that has a lot of damage, gear damage inscription. But we'll go in and showcase it. So I saw a couple storms up here. We'll see. They're still here. Yeah, they are. Okay, we'll go ahead and take out these guys. So this is GM1. We're going to take out enemies pretty easily. We'll go ahead and test it against their shield in GM1. So it takes about 2 to take down their shields. However, it's taking a lot to take down their general health. So I've got about 6 charges, which isn't too bad. I don't know if you can tell, like there is an animation to this, so it can take a second. The main goal you're going to want to do with this though is hit the weak points. So as you can tell with like a shotgun effect, if you can hit their target, it does about a dozen pellets, and each one gets its own damage of that what is typically like over almost 1,500. But as you can see, I'm getting higher damage rolls. And if you see those yellow numbers, those are hit or crit or weak point damage. So you can actually use this pretty well if you've got a lot of damage associated with weak point damage. The only thing is you're not gonna. So if I'm really far back here, let's see if I can do it from here. I can hit him, but somehow I got a headshot on that guy. The further away you are, the less effective it's going to be. So you like really to get the full effects of it. This is all just luck of what just happened here. But typically, to get the full effects, you need to be really close and be aiming specifically for those weak points. And generally, the weak points are like the head. So let's see if we can get them to stop real quick. So that's kind of what you want to do. And it has a spread like a shotgun. Let's test that against their shield. That's pretty good against their shield, and then it takes them down instantly. So you're gonna want to be really close because there is a spread to it, as we were showcasing over there. The further you get away, the less aggressive the more aggressive the spread gets. As you can see, I'm only hitting him with like 1 or 2 pellets there. Whereas if I get up here, I hit him with like 5 or 6 of them. So that's kind of thing is you kind of have to not be afraid of being close to the group. Because as you can see like I'm really not getting a whole lot, but if I run up to them, I'm pretty much able to take both of them out instantly. So we'll go ahead and clear these guys out and get some find some armored enemies. Alright, so we got some armored enemies here. And see, because they're armored, you see how like they're going down in one shot? It's because it has armor break on it. So against armored enemies, this is going to be very useful. Okay, so we'll go one-on-one with the javelin. So it takes about a dozen to take down their shield. Not actually. And then you see how, like, it took forever to take down their shield, but with one shot, I was able to get them down to pretty much, like, a third of their health. So that's where it's really going to shine, is if you're going up against a lot of armored enemies. But we'll go into GM3 and kind of go over some more there. Okay, so we're in GM3, and I'm just going to go into the forge right off the bat and switch to my more damage heavy black powder, because I'm going to need it. As we can see in GM1, I was kind of having issues, especially with the elementalists, who can be a real pain in the butt if you don't take care of them. So we'll just go over a couple different ways that you can use this. So if you prime enemies, not necessarily prime, if you give them an effect of like fire or acid, it should automatically weaken them and make it easier. As you can see, I had like 6 charges before. I don't know if you can see that. I had 6 charges of flat cannon before, whereas now I only have 2. So this is going to be interesting. I mean, I know what the result is because I've run these all week long, but as you're going to see, this is going to be kind of an interesting setup, and might take me a minute to get through here. Alright, so we'll go up against this shielded enemy real quick. So, about a third-ish. The thing is, you really... So, like, I hit them pretty much spot on in their weak point. And it's not doing anything. It's barely ticking away at their health. So, let me see if I can set them on fire. Okay, so set them on fire, they're grounded. So now it makes it a little bit easier. And you can see they're getting tick damage. And my numbers have increased a little bit. Not a lot, though. But this is the way you're going to want to try and do this. Here's where the problem is you only have a couple things that do acid or fire damage. And they're pretty much in this slot. And as you can see, because I'm not defeating enemies, I'm not getting my charges back like I was before. Like in GM1 with the 6 charges, I really wasn't having to work. It's barely even taking down one enemy type with one shot. Shoot that off. So like I'm hitting this guy right in his weak points, and it just doesn't care. Yeah. So luckily, its saving grace is it has a very low recharge. I don't know. I'm just gonna keep going with it. So as you can see, like the further away I am with this, and this is where you're really gonna see it. Distance is not your friend when it comes to this. You need to treat this like a shotgun. You need to get up in their faces, because this is gonna take forever. I mean, this is my recharge build. Like I have recharged out the wazoo on this bad boy, on this javelin build, and I am struggling here to take them down with just a flat cannon. Alright, let's see if we can find a shielded enemy. Yeah, they just... This is like tickling them, like literally tickling them. Alright, I'm gonna find an armored enemy. So this is what I'm talking about when you set them on fire, it weakens them. As you can see now, I'm really taking them down because, 1, they're getting tick damage. 2, they're taking that initial blast. But because of this, they're weakened. Alright, so here's the shielded enemy. So, took down their shield almost instantly. Did pretty good damage to them. Not bad. But I'm like right in their face. I'm putting my reticle right on their head. Oop, I bumped him with my shield. So, you gotta really be specific with your positioning. You cannot make mistakes on this. And that's why I typically bring the ability to freeze them in place. But, now I can't use my fire on them. Oh god, this is painful. I'm sure you're watching this going, this is very painful to watch. And, okay, waiting for the server to come back. Okay, so, a little bit of lag input on my end, but it's not taking away from how the gear's working. Alright, I'm going to clear these guys out because this is going to make this video extremely excruciating long if I don't. And then I'll pop back in with some armored enemies. Okay, we got some armored enemies here. So, it's doing about half of what it was in GM1, right? 2 to 3 shots is pretty much taking their shield down if I get them correctly. Whereas here you can see I'm not even doing half health. It's taking a lot of work to get down a normal outlaw enemy type. But these guys I can almost take down 2 shots. So that's kind of the difference on it. All right, I'm just going to take these guys out, and then we'll go one-on-one with the javelin. Okay, so it's just me and it's just me and the ranger right now. So I'll let them get their shield back so I can kind of showcase it. Okay, so it's going to take forever to take their shield down this way, and I don't have a lot of charges because I got a lot more damage on it. So I'm going to go ahead and take their shield down. Okay, the shield is down. So we're getting about 10,000 per pellet. So if you're really good at hitting them in their weak points, you can really do a lot. And I don't have any weak point rolls on this specifically because I want to showcase the normal stats. But as you can see, I'm taking them down pretty easily compared to like what I was doing with the storms. So that didn't look too hard. So against armored enemies, it's actually pretty good. Assuming you can take them down. If I was fighting like 3 of those rangers at once, or even 2, or some multiple brutes, that could have been pretty painful. Okay, so real quickly, let's go over the boxes, and I'm going to do some discussion on this because there's a lot to talk about actually. Is it efficient? No, it's not efficient. And here's why I'm going to say this. So you see that like animation. This like they unload and then they kind of chuck out a canister and then you're like standing there with your fist in the air for like a half of a second, and I can't really use it. So it's not too bad, but okay. And then the recharge is actually the best out of most everything in here that's not a primer. So the Fist of the Crucible and we'll go in here and take a look at them real quickly. So the Fist of the Crucible has a 0 recharge, and then Sullivan Green has a 1 recharge, and they both prime. They both do, actually, so here's something that's interesting. I didn't even realize till this right now. If you look at Sullivan Green, it has a quicker recharge. It has an acid effect of 7, which, you know, whatever. Usually 20 is going to get you the actual acid effect on the enemy or prime them. But it does 2,700 damage where Black Powder does 1,500. So Green Sullivan primes and does additional damage, and because it's acid effect, it has the acid effect, it'll do additional damage overall because acid weakens enemies. So already like a gear piece that I wouldn't even use other than to get its masterwork perk looks better on paper than Black Powder. And then same with the Fist of the Crucible. It does about 1,000 less damage, but it has a 0 recharge, so you're getting your recharges back really quickly. It has fire effect, which, you know, it's 7, so it's a little lower than what I prefer, but you know, hitting enemies with your flamethrower through its masterwork perk gives you stacks of fire damage. Plus it's fire, so it's going to weaken the enemies. That's kind of, yeah, so just to point that out, it's like a quick little, how you do, or just a little bit of info. That kind of like makes Black Powder almost like, why would you use this over these? Because they at least prime, and their masterwork perks are actually significantly better, and they don't have to. You don't have to worry about getting charged back or recharge because their recharge is like 1 or below, it's like 0. Like these instantly recharge. So that's kind of where this gear slot, it doesn't seem like you should use this. Now, that's not saying you can't make a build around it. And that's why I kind of want to talk about it too, is, well, in efficiency. So is it efficient? I don't think it's efficient just because compared to other gear pieces you have in there, it really doesn't seem like it. It's all that beneficial. And plus, you only have 1 charge. With Green Sullivan and Fist of the Crucible, I think you start out with like 4 or 6, and then you get whatever based on whatever your description rules for recharge or gear charges are. And with this one, I have 200 extras, so I've gotten 6. So it doesn't offer a lot. And then because it's not a detonator or a primer, it's not really, and that's going to lead us into viability. It doesn't detonate, it doesn't prime, and it really doesn't do. Usually if something doesn't detonate or prime, typically it'll do a lot of damage. This doesn't really even do a lot of damage in general. It does okay damage. Well, I wouldn't even say it's okay damage, it's just damage. In GM1 it's not bad, but here's the thing too about the viability. There's only one build you're going to ever be able to use that in, and that is a build centered around weak point damage, because the only way you're going to get benefit of this is if you walk straight up to them and hit them like straight in their dome piece or a weak point, and do like 12 times damage because of all the pellets. I'm not saying you can't make a build off this, and I've definitely seen somebody with a build, but it's a very specific build, so it can only be in one build type. You can't use it throughout a bunch of different builds, which is kind of my perspective on why it's not viable. And then you can kind of see like its pattern is kind of like a line almost, kind of like a flat line. I don't know if you've ever played Titanfall 2. There's a weapon in there that has a recoil pattern where it goes like left and right instead of up and down, and that's kind of like the pattern it's got here. So that's something you have to be aware of too, is like even if you're up really, really close, it's still going to hit a little bit on the edges. And then is it fun? Well, you know what? If you like challenges and you've got a lot of weak point rolls or a lot of global damage rolls on different gear and pieces for the Colossus, I think you could have fun with this. But I'm going to tell you, for the last week of just playing around with this, trying to make a build around it or trying to like see what synergizes with it, realistically nothing does. So I don't think it's fun. So I'm going to give it the thumbs down, but I want to go into discussion a little bit more about it, because here's the thing, and I kind of bashed on Final Judgment about this. So here's the thing about Final Judgment. In order to get the Masterwork perk, it's a detonator. Cool. It makes it a little bit more viable. It has a really punishing recharge. Most of the mortars are like that anyways. And then its radius is kind of like, meh, it's okay. Here's where this one gets, and I was kind of talking negatively on this one, is Demolisher's Wrath. When hitting 2 enemies, increases all damage for 55% for 20 seconds. So you could actually use that for this build, ironically. Here's the thing. It's really hard to get that to proc, right? So you would have to, because of the trajectory, actually, I'll put it on real quick. So we'll go ahead and put one on, and then I'll kind of showcase it off. So the way you would use that in comparison to this one, even though they're completely different gear slots, is you see how like it can't come so close to me? I have to position myself very specifically. And if they start running at me, I'm kind of screwed here. Like this is as far as I can come in. It's almost like the length of this walkway is about as far as I can come in. And then it takes a second for it to go off, and potentially they could have moved at that point. And then they have to be kind of inside that inner dome, not even the whole dome. If you see that there's a highlight on that inside of the dome, that's where they have to be in to get the Masterwork perk to activate. Where with Flat Cannon, its Masterwork perk is just it gets another one if you defeat an enemy. Well, positioning is a lot less of a pain in the butt, because all you have to do is just walk right up to them, and that's not going to be hard. And then, so what you can do is you can set fire to the area. They'll be in the area, and they'll be on fire, and they shouldn't be moving a whole lot because that should have knocked them back. And then you can just hit them in their weak point, and they're already under a weakened effect, so it's doing more damage. And then same with when I was using... Oop, I'm in the air, so it won't let me go into my forge. So originally what I was using was Voltic Dome, which what I would do with this one is I would walk up to a group and freeze the group, and then they're all stationary, and then I would just pick them off one by one. And then if they started breaking out of that freeze effect, I just freeze them again, and then keep chipping away at their health. This is a little bit more versatile than the other one, the mortar we were looking at, Final Judgment. And that's why I was talking so negatively on it, saying that this is better, because so for Final Judgment, it's a little bit more versatile in the fact that it's a detonator, so you can use it, but it's so hard to use. Positioning is so specific. And then the recharge, if you miss, is so punishing. Where with this, the recharge isn't bad, so if you miss or you don't get a perfect shot, or they duck or dive when you're trying to hit them in their weak points, it's not bad, because you get, it's a recharge of 4. It's like 10 less than what a Final Judgment is. And I know I'm comparing like apples to oranges here, so this is a little different. I just want to make sure I came back to that and circled around. And then the other thing is, this video is going to be kind of long, unfortunately, but other thing is I've compared this with the other shotguns, because I'm like, well, if all it does is acts like a shotgun, then why don't I just use a shotgun instead? The Colossus can, in fact, use shotguns. Here's the thing about shotguns. So this one, Pop-Up Pump, the only way you get a mass, and it does less damage, right? So this one does less damage, and its RPM's kind of slow. And then its Masterwork perk is reloading increases force and delivery bonus of 100% for 15 seconds. But that only applies to this weapon. It doesn't say that in the Masterwork perk, so I've tested it a lot because I tried to use it in different builds to get that delivery bonus. It only works for the shotgun, which sucks. And then Radiant Fortress, hitting shots in a single burst recharges your shield. Here's the thing about the Colossus. Colossus doesn't really have their shield up 24/7 like all the other javelins. They have to physically put it up. And if you're a Colossus, you shouldn't be depending on your shield to take a majority of the damage. It's going to be your armor. That's why they're so stout with armor. And then where's the other one at? Oh, here we go. Rolling Carnage. So Scout's advantage. Dashing increases this weapon's damage by 83% for 20 seconds and stacks to 3. I'm not 100% sure if this works more than outside the weapon, but here's the thing about it too. The Colossus can't dash. So the Colossus literally has no use for any of these shotguns. And none of them really do very good damage, where with Flak Cannon, it does about 1,500. And these all do, I think, around less than 1,000. Yeah, they all do like less than 100 or 700. Yeah, this one does the most, Rolling Carnage. But you can't use any of their perks. They're completely useless to you. So that's why I think Flak Cannon exists, is because the requirements for all of the other shotguns only work for all the other javelins. You're never going to really be recharging your shield with the Colossus, because you're never going to, as soon as you put the shield away, it's recharging on its own. So you're not going to be using that weapon and holding up your shield at the same time, unless there's some kind of a macro or glitch I'm unaware of. You can't do both at once. So that's not really a viable option. And then the force and delivery bonus that doesn't apply to anything else, so that's useless. And then the dashing, well, Colossus can't dash, so they're never going to get that bonus either. So that's why my belief is why this exists. It's basically a shotgun that works specifically for this javelin. It's like a fix, maybe. I don't know. It actually seems like if you wanted a shotgun for a Colossus, this is the only viable option. Otherwise, you're just wasting a weapon slot that you could stack with something else that has inscriptions for other stuff. So that's kind of why I think it exists, and that's where I think it shines the most, is if you want to do something like that. It's only going to really work very well on a weak point build. You're going to have to specifically go with that. So that's kind of where my mindset is. I'm sure someone, like I said, I've seen a Colossus with a weak point build using Flak Cannon, just destroying like Ursix and the Monitor and all these other enemies that have specific weak points. So there, it has its purposes and its uses, but I'm going to end the video here. If you guys have any discussion or topics, or you think that I'm using this incorrectly, let me know. Please, by all means, let me know. And maybe I'll do a part 2 on Flak Cannon. But Undefeated Rescue, and I hope to see you guys out in Bastion.